So this morning's topic for the panel discussion is wisdom and compassion. There is a beautiful verse in the Buddha's teaching where it says, wisdom without compassion is bondage, and compassion without wisdom is bondage. Very often people ask this question, yes, we need to be compassionate, but how to deal with difficult situations? When you simply try to be compassionate and loving, people normally take advantage of you. So how to deal with that one? And even yesterday I was giving a talk in Ganj and a number of people asked the same question. So therefore this is not only interesting, but today's topic of the panel discussion is really the heart of the Buddhist teaching. Just like the two wings of the bird, without one wing you cannot fly in the sky or in the space. Similarly, without the presence of one of them, you may be lopsided. There are people who have great intelligence, but who are without method or without heart, and they might end up inventing a destructive nuclear bomb. And then there are people who have great loving kindness or compassion, but no knowledge and no wisdom. And therefore they do not know how to really solve the problems that we face in our life and also in the world. So therefore this is a very, very interesting topic, and I would now open the floor without taking much time. So the floor is yours.
Ani tering nganzugi ani shuya ki joja zo drawdi ani thapsi ki koris ani thapsi dilayang ta number ni ki konema ani jani she go tensu ani tangbo ani jitang ki wang du che ni ani thapsi she chu jitang ani ta number sangge ba ge ngone ni thapsi she chu chin ta number ni yo res an ti ti number ni ti thone ani rok jam chi shu go tensu ta tangbo Jitang Giwang to Chena Tapsi Sadi, country of Chishagre, La Yundu, Tatambong to Shirop. Shirop Siadi, the Yug Korangi, Netan Kari, Yimba Dilaya, Tawa Chibiki, the Namju Sinatra, the Lord Dilaya, and Karla Yurela to Samba, Shirops. The Shirop Dilaya Yugi, Korangi, Neluta.
So, just like to everybody. So, I want to say a few words about what is wisdom and what is method. So generally we can look at this topic from two ways. One is like in kind of a common kind of sense. We have some idea of what is wisdom and what is method. And also from Buddhist point of view, we have a specific understanding of what is wisdom and what is method, and so I will say a few words from Buddhist point of view. And for that matter, when we talk about the wisdom, wisdom is the ability to understand the object in its kind of in a real sense.
The Yugi Netan Koran Kari Yimba di Tatu Dilaya, number sum drops Chadiguris. Ani the number sum de ne Jeta Tobe Shirop, Sambe Shirop, Gombe Shirop, Chin number sum drops Chadiguri.
We can have three different types of wisdoms from our understanding. First is what we call the insights or the wisdom that we gain from listening to somebody. Or hearing wisdom. And the second one is after you hear that, then you contemplate or you think about what you have heard from somebody or read in some books. And that is called a second level of wisdom. And And the third one is the wisdoms that you gain through meditation.
다 당보 가서 퇴배 시럽세 디 컨트롤 지시하기라 두선바야 다 미신 지기양 유 코랑 기내당 가리 임바디 아니 모두 윤두선바다 랑이기 하고 잠지라야 아니 퇴배 시럽스
For the first kind of, or the first level of wisdom, when somebody explains you about something, because just by listening to the explanations, you have some sort of understanding about the topic itself, and at that level, the understanding or the insight that you gained through that kind of listening to their explanation is called the insight or the wisdom from listening.
디네 니바디 아니 다 시행기 모두 디 하고 잠도 마샤네 가르치고라도 수수 랑외네 금제 체니 다 유네다 디 방자리샤 랑자리샤 세니 디 하고 토바지라야 안 칼로그리스 삼베시럽스.
Then at the second level, the first level of wisdom is not enough. So what you should do is that at the second level, you have to contemplate about what you have heard or learned from that person, and using your own kind of reasoning or the logics, you have to determine whether that is right or wrong, or whether that is something that is you should follow, or that whether it's something that you should abandon. So through that way, what we call the wisdom of contemplation, a new insights will gain through thinking more kind of in an analytical way.
다 숨바디 아니 양 디기 잠지 마샤니 금제 디 잠지 마샤니 유 코랑 기네다 가리 임바딜라 네 저소소기 양네 양도 롱어라야 아니 곰지 테바제 바딜라야 아니 곰베 시럽스 럭데스.
So that level of understanding is also not enough if you have a kind of gained that second level of understanding or the insight, but you have to habituate whatever you gained through that. And so for that reason, you have to meditate upon those insights that you have gained from the two previous methods, so that you can kind of make it stronger and make it more kind of spontaneous.
페라부지 차샤소나 다 게라지기 룩투 딜라야 룩투 나오에 껍슬라야 룩투 디기 엔게라 송샹교기 되면 거와 딜라야 아니 퇴베시럽스.
For example, if I give example related with the students, when students they are listening to the teacher, whatever information they gain from the teacher is what we call the first level of wisdom, that is insights gained through listening.
디네 룩투 디기다 거에 되면 딜라 수수 랑이 네 제바 제네다 되면 디 컨트리 도스 야네 야네 삼나타야 딜라야 아니 삼베시럽스.
Then if you are able to contemplate about what you have learned from the teacher or to hear from the teacher, then through contemplation, the new insights that you get is what we call the second level of insight or the wisdom.
다 디네 아니 삼나타니 다 카르로스 수수 롱어라야 아니 쿰티 테니 아니 남사 된다디야 남사 수수 로라야 차투야 지라야 아니 곰베시럽스.
Then once when you achieve kind of a real understanding of something, then to meditate upon that kind of level or habituate on that kind of insight, so that it becomes kind of a spontaneous in the future, and that is called the wisdom that is gained through meditation.
디네 탑세야디 다 컨트롤 저래 유 코랑 네다 강 임바데 하고 에토네 아니 유딜랑 아랑 파 주고 인도선 바야다 레트라고 토네 아니 둑탑 지어와 딜라야 탑스.
So next level, when you have the insights or the understanding of something, at the next level you have to engage with that, and then comes the idea of method. And when we talk about method, the easiest way to achieve something is called method.
다양 베르스 차샤베나 나랑 주 시럽길레다 기와다 미겨와 슬랍디게로와 다레 기와디 카레임바 남사 수수 토네 남사 최탄들린 투야 안레 미겨와 디조양 레 하비 토네 파 아니 파 투바딜라야 아니 dinde ki thap dila ya ani ta thap shana digi sa.
For example, we have to abandon negative thoughts or negative actions, and we have to take in positive actions and positive thoughts. In order to do that, there are ways in which you can do that in an easiest way. And understanding the easiest way or taking in that easiest way is what we call adopting the method.
Dine nganzu ge thapsi sungju san she digora ta thapsi sungju se adi content of ji gure la du sambaya ta ri ta le yagdu khare yina ya ani khar la gure ta ri sheba jang ge mi phen bala ya ani ri ta so rangi ki ani ta lam tila ri jugu na ta jugu be kapsula ya ani khar la gure sana ta thap dang shirab di nyeba du gu yorwa di gu be jumzela de ne ta thapsi sungju se ji shana digis.
So we always emphasize on having both wisdom and methods working together or going together, because if you wanted to achieve something, you need both of these. Wisdom is not enough, and method only is not enough. If you have both of these properties together, then you can achieve your goals in an easiest way.
Ta kandir rawjirela na thabdi gone ani gewa du an digba pawa la so begi ani lela ya ta nganju jugu gerwa ta ju yende sambaya ani thabdi nyeba du ani sherabla tengu ba sherabdi an thabdela nyeba du ku tengu ba di yinja ta khoni ni ani khareda me thab me ba shi chadi geris.
So for our spiritual activities, taking in the virtuous activities or abandoning the non-virtuous activities, in order to do that, you also need this method and wisdom always going together.
Ta bere chashaga chebe na ngazu neba jila chashana ta thangbo neba digi khari chiurela du sambaya ta ngana jane ta tha gugu du sambe loshki yorwa. To
give an example, when we have a sick person, the sick person has to have understanding how important it is for him to get rid of that disease. And that kind of understanding, even at that level, we can take or consider it as a wisdom.
Dine ani ta nga ne tru gu sambe sanglo di dembe tho ne ani menkan la dro ne ta amjila la so ba te ne ni ta takje che la so ba ge ta amjila ge ta che to thashi mango chi teng gurwa o ta dizula khal la ge resna thos.
The understanding of your diseases and importance of getting rid of diseases is not enough. You need to go to a doctor, you need to go to a right doctor, and the doctor has to prescribe the right medicines for you. So that part of the referring to the doctor and taking the medicines, these comes under what we call method.
Ta niba di ta cheba nga zo nangba sangge bagi ani ta thapsi sa di ta khandre dab ji shang gure la du sambaya ta gyewa ine ta giwe ge phembe ge yu ne lu tok ba dela an khar la ge la du shirabs.
So the above understanding of wisdom and method are to some extent common to all of us. We all have a common understanding about this, and it is not unique to the Buddhist understanding. But when in Buddhist context, when we talk about wisdom and method, wisdom is the insight or the ability in you that can differentiate between what is righteous action and what is can I say non-right, bad action. And methods to achieve or practice right action, and methods to, the ways to eliminate or abandon negative actions are called method.
다 지다 ngazu nangba sangge ba di thapsi dilaya ani she yundu sambaya ta mangbu juyoris.
And also from Buddhist understanding, when we refer to these two terms, method and wisdom, we can refer them in different contexts. We can talk this from different contexts.
다 thiri nganzu ye ani thapsi di ta zo ani demba nil jane ani she is.
We can talk this from the kind of by referring this to two truths.
Di ta tambu thab sheba di ta thani ki chö din zulaya ani thabs.
So when we talk about two truths, the first truth is what we call conventional truth, and so from that point of view, the method part is at the conventional is related or the correspond to conventional truth.
Dini nelu da tendam korang tobe ta losena ja chemba sa wo dilaya ani sheros.
And then the wisdom part, we relate this to the ultimate truth, because wisdom is responsible for all close or related with understanding the ultimate nature or the ultimate reality.
Dini ngazu da thani kunzu ki chö dilaya ani thabs ani sha go gyumje khare labdu samba.
The reason why we associate this method with conventional truth is that
다 간사 수이나양 다 대화 되든지 경경 인장 다 간주 당보 가르치 그래 대화 두고 그러스.
Since all of us, what we want is happiness. If happiness is what we want, then we have to work for achieving happiness.
제장 아니 다 간사 수이네 람줌 주기 관에 아니 다 타두기 대화디 두고 그러스.
And that kind of achievement has to come through taking different steps one by one.
아니 다 타니기 군첩디 최딜라야 간데친 땡구레라디 당봉아 쪽에다 제 식스나 자 아니 야메나 자 안 기회신이 라소발라 테네 엔 당보 안 트렌드 고아치고고리스.
So at that level, it's important to understand how things operate or works at a conventional level. For that, you have to rely on hearing from other and reading, and so through that way, the importance of understanding conventional level is at a very high degree.
디 마데라 응아랑 줄라야다 타두기 대화 담바디 탑투그르벨라나 탑투기요 마리스.
So without understanding the conventional realities, you will not going to achieve what you seek for, that is happiness.
제장아랑 주고다 타니기 취스야 디 아니다 대화 담바 또바 치발라야 페미시기 케 침보다 아니 랭카 침보지 투기요리스.
So even though it's not kind of real in a sense, but the conventional reality or the conventional phenomena or the understanding of it is very important for achieving or attaining happiness.
제장 타니들 네바도 되고그리스.
So it's very much dependent on conventional truth.
다 타니기 취디 ngaran jungone 가르쳐 부차디고 요래 란드 엔 랑기 되베 유도 주에 집에 람 더부디 가르쳐고 요래라도 다 타니기 취디도 차디고 요리스.
And so since this conventional phenomena or conventional reality are important to understand to achieve your happiness, so it is closely related with the method part or the practice part. So to some extent we call these conventional realities as the method.
다 시럽 세야디 ngaran jugre 다 kunjo guchu 아니 다 시럽 세야디 가르라고 요래라 뒤선바야다 re kunjo gi ani chö dra dang chikla so bala namsha di jola tene ta korang gi nelu kharani yimba de chui shun do tokbe gi lo jila ya ani sherops lag yoris.
By relying upon the language and other methods, the understanding of how things operate or the insights you gain from the understanding of whatever the reality. And that insight is we called wisdom or wisdom. Yeah.
Tendra yin zang ta rangshe gui la membe ki ta sangye ki kuban sana dra ani tadu ki dewa thamba deyang khoni la tene ani drup thuk ris.
So even the ultimate goal or the ultimate happiness or the liberation or the enlightenment can also gain through the understanding of wisdom and method and applying these two together.
Ani samal thu chi na shwe.
Thank you.
So since we don't have much time, I once again urge all the panelists to be mindful of the time and also request them not to repeat what other panelists have already spoken. The same thing can be said in a different way, in a more interesting way. Jasang the Tuzuhita mewa inza, the Tibetan the Len Jargan Sangmagi. Sunhi Nangi Kendaji, he Sarvachina, the Anjurjin, Chanduchin, he Mogovach. Till the Desi Juhichigwaina, Hena Desamandavada, Sirutan Sorobada, Rua, Tata Manda, the Dindayan and Tigratim and Chigwachigaina, he Mogotunchiro.
I was just wondering, because thought in conventional understanding, there is, the first you need to understand, and then you can use a method. So here you're saying that both go together. But what if I'm still at the level of an intellectual understanding? I'm still seeking to understand, and I'm still not gone beyond your first level of listening and trying to just simply intellectually assimilate, and I have a grasp of some concepts but not really in depth. So what then would be the methods? Do the methods also vary, or is it the same method? For conventional, somebody has conventional wisdom and is still stuck at the level of intellectual understanding. How do you go, what kind of method is there for that? To do work, you're saying no, wisdom and method go together. That's what...
The kunzub chögi keja sheyung du zambala kunzub gu chödunzo yaguchi ne thangbo dusta mission be zan nyembe kapsula nye kala ganzam go tsugires chezang go tswe ki jela shine go tswe dila tene tangi laglen khartar gu du mindu se di jela le yung du was cheza dila du sambala sherab de ngele chi thab de jela le yung we sorostus ina ya tanji kirang keja shev kapsula thab da sherab di khadu imbena nyamdo li yores nyamdo dugures sung du gugu yores ya ki thinji kosons cheza di khane do jinalas thab se de chig de we na zo yore do chilas
Sidange dada di tab dan sherab shedo zambala ngzu tab koranda sherab koranchi tab je sunju la do zambala ya ma cheto ni komyaji yores.
So normally we can talk about wisdom separately, and we can talk about method separately, and then we can also talk about how it is important to use these together.
Teedo 지단게 자와 카레게 차네 바이네 타 자와 카레를 주게 요나비 탑제 손주게 차네 주야 요래라 이야기 거네요 주야기 용거 요레스.
So when you engage with something, it is possible that you are using only the wisdom part, and it is also possible that you are only using the method part. And what we are saying is that if you are able to combine both wisdom and method together when you engage with something, then that is the best way to do it, or best way to engage with something.
제단 단다가 저 군주비 초된절라 탑 지내자야다 대다비기 탑들라 때니 돈내로도야게 셔랍디 주요라스.
So normally we engage with this conventional truth or conventional realities or conventional phenomena. And by engaging with this, we gain insights, or when we gain wisdom.
Tene da nga zong ngoyo ne zda thongo to gola tha thongo to yar chabala to gola tene thabda sharab de sunju ge thoni ju gores tandam to
So at the conventional level, this two can go in kind of in a separate way. But from our point of view, in order to realize the ultimate truth or the ultimate nature of reality, you need to have both of these wisdom and method together or applied together.
te sunju de yang nga zo ge tha nyamleng gi do chane shido zamala ni sunju de ju ge she chu ji res.
So mostly when we talk about applying this together, it is more related with practice, how you do practice.
Ta ta gara res ring dos
From the perspective of mental illness, since some of us researchers are here coming from a background of psychology, I would say that, of course, it is ideal for wisdom and methods or that habituated practice to come together, but sometimes that's not always possible. And I just want to say that sometimes when we're working with people who are trying to become mentally healthier and exhibit better behaviors, we say, if you cannot understand the wisdom, that's okay at first. Just go out and behave better. Just forget about the wisdom for now. Go out, change your behavior, and then you get the insights. You will see that if you are behaving in a healthier way, the world will also come back to you in a healthier way. And so sometimes these things don't always have to come together for a person to progress. It's not always happening at once. It is, how do you say? It's not always linear that way.
탑시 송주 고레스 라두 잠발라 땅 안조도 심비나 아니 지가 미 샘기 강이 되와 되네 망고신님돌라 레가치 구요레스 아니 가브레 아니 미드조 샘기 강이 요 겸전 때네 아니 키라 아니 셰락 부토네 아니 디네 디네 레다스 디네 디네 제 구르다스 야케 아니 코다테 테 투구요 마레스 제가 아니 이나야 코란솔라 지가 땅 안조기 엔 쮸답기 탑람 된조고 토네 콘조기 아니 치 쮸바디 따고도 비헤비어스다 루이키 남겨다 아니 쮸바트엔 된조 티스 지 아니 야르게 도와 통두 잠발라 아니 콘조기 아니 디네 치네 레다스 디치니 총바 레다스 셰랍기 차딘 데시 야데비 메난 고추 마레스 제가 안조 디네 데시 게마테 버치 아니 키라 쮸바 칸디 뜬거 요와 디샤스 제가 디 겸센 삼로 마탄스 디네 라 치네 데데다 데데스다 남겨 디네 라 뜬시그레스 디네 라 뜬비비나 아니 지가 chiloki kuriu dinzuki ane kirano chota yalen ya yongyaki ane netan yungu yores cheza ane samlo matans la chi nganzu dine shigres cheza dine stone shebin bena thapshi sungju se khadu yimena ane nyamdo yung koyach mindu stab da shera se dinini ane ditol samju khari na dos
ta thapshi sungju se ati nyebar do khoni ni ta thapdan sherab sai di thuji la nyam dule go ayo maris.
So when we talk about importance of wisdom and method, we are not saying that it has to be simultaneous.
Yine yang ta nganzugi jitang thambu ta re thap tabuji pere cha cha ga chebe na nganzu thangbu ta lagang dina lego cheba la ya ta thangbu nga lagang dina drogo isambe logic mo ki buris.
If I give an example, if you need to if in order to go to the temple, you first have to have a wish to go to this temple, and that wish at a mental level, to some extent we can consider it as a wisdom part. So after that, only you act in actually going to the temple. And there are different ways to reach to this temple. You can take the steps one by one, and you can skip the steps and come through another way.
아니 탑시 송주 세야데 쪼다 코니 야마타와 찍찍을 땜바 친구레스.
So when we talk about wisdom and method going together, what we meant was these two should always kind of support each other support each other and then practice.
대비셔잖아 다그러와 아니 코랑게 당부 네바디게 나자디 하고 버체발라야 탑라텐 아니 탑딜라테네 오다 미딜라 나자 두 삼비 또야 클로셔와 어디 텐덴 바서 어디 디지샤나 디사리스.
So when you treat patients, you use methods to treat them, and when you use methods for treating, you gain new insights about the diseases or the problems that is associated with this patient. So, and that time, even if it is not simultaneous, you are using both practice and method.
May I pose a question?
Yeah, Tiwaj?
It's a little bit off topic. It was about what Geshe Lhakdor said in the beginning about wisdom and compassion. And one, I think, being how did you say?
One without the other is bondage.
Bondage. This is something I'm seeking your wisdom on. If, for example, I have a person in my family who causes a lot of problems. They are mentally maybe sick, and they do a lot of bad things and bring much suffering onto my family, for example. And you want to show compassion and love, but you don't want to reward their bad behavior. You don't want to encourage their continued destructive behavior by being too compassionate. What wisdom do you have in a situation like this? How does one show genuine compassion without continuing to let this person bring destruction or shame on not only the family, but themselves?
Tijina tanda ngi tiwadi ani kirang shevi jushi da thegar dewa mesi gresina ani undru tamshik nang gishla ki karsung slabing bena ani shirab da
탑 다 테베 시럽네 칭와오스 시럽 다 테베 탑네 칭와오스 gel di laviore ditang
tigana shi da diladu sambala ani dik nang morang kiche thedi ningji dosh lai da ani ningji khechim bures gi ores ani diladu sama pecha chana ngarang ki nangla ani nangmichi ani sem ki kangi yo de wadile chag yores jeza ani kholangi ki ani ningji che mang tha bimbina ta khar chene che chu bimbina ningji che ani koki ani chik ngazu ki nangmi sama impa ani koran la ya ani mutune ani kangi te dia jeza diladu sambala ani nganzu ki ningji di koran ki ani choba de duru doya ki ani chajen chorya ki ani nedang yo wa songza dinde le chindu yo mares jeza da dinde chindu mewe kapsla ani kira ani ningji di tse takda chi samsam khande chi le ani sha gu yo da sha gu yo di ani sherab khande chi le ten ani ha gu res
지단게 다다 네 나랑게 삼서다 쇼리나 다다게 제와들라 렌디 지당아 저 남배기 쇼니 다도 쉐비나 닌제딩아 저 탑라샤요라 아니 tin tablasha do zambala tada morangi samsuda tuningi gi khodeoda tabdeoda chinchik shubina tene kansa kora ne badila tungi quran la ninje khande tunna kola phento dos khado tene chele gyana yang quran la no ba khare lik dos ta cho ko yur quran kansa ne badila tun gori changi dos.
So from our point of view, compassion is a part of method to deal with other things. And when we talk about compassion is not equal to letting him do or letting her do whatever they want to do. So that means what kind of methods or how you should deal with that individual, you have to know the nature and the situation of that person, and accordingly you have to change your methods to deal with that person, and that is what we call compassionate act.
Tati do ani theda bige ta togengi lodi khandela shagore sungi ara lodi ani neba khara la tongi shado khurangi lekbege cha khari chi do 니베게 자 가르치기도 다 파트 예와지게 돼 아니 기랑기 로 차교레스 기랑 따도 지겐기 로디 차교레 데 셔랍 차교레스.
So when you spend more and more time with that patient, then you can understand more and more about that patient or that person. And when you understand means, then you know what he wants, what he don't want, and accordingly you gain more wisdom about that person, and then you know better ways or better methods to deal with that person.
Yes, that's
Thank you.
Shall I take the advantage of being the moderator and say something? According to Buddhist teaching, when we talk about harmony of compassion and wisdom, especially when we talk about great compassion, the great compassion itself is developed on insight, knowledge, and wisdom. So what I'm trying to say is, whether you develop compassion or method or wisdom, the purpose of all this positive practice is to benefit people. So compassion is not like you completely feel lost. You're in desperation, nothing to do. You don't know what to do, and you just sit with the suffering person and being helpless and hug him and touch him and cry. We're not talking about that kind of compassion. The compassion that is based on wisdom is you see what is the best way to benefit this person. And in fact, the person with wisdom and compassion always maintains a distance from the person who is sick or who is a patient. And then from a distance, without letting your negative emotions involved in it, then you are able to get a clear insight how to help, when to help, what is the method to help. As is very clearly said in Buddhism, if poison is useful, eat it. If medicine is not useful, even medicine, don't eat it. So that the whole target of the Buddhist teaching is to benefit people, not simply be with that person. That's why this goes very well with the English saying, love is not how many times you touch each other, but how many times you reach each other. So therefore, it is really, really very much based on proper insight and wisdom. Tengge de pyoge gang nyingdu ji shu shabai na. Jasa ngangzo dan da tabhi sungju silabdu. Hip sabo gwan he bai na. Tabi da nyingje da jig changju sem da jewa da kande jina. Di khora hirabl tende bachi. Khol nyingje chego jumsen khare semje dunge yore. Dung deva dengu yore. Nelu hakone. Nelu hako de chikshi. Nelu hako be thone tabda hirab ke goye khora jumsen khora 파조를 페지 배나 낭주나를 페나 도이나 사스 마페나 메이나 마덴시 요로 근데 또 페메 페다고 마도기 당가 콜링제 요세와 요세네 콜레 도스 탐데 파게 누이지 데데 디히게 요 마레스 락와르도 코 넬로 야구 싱게지네 데스 파게 강에 요게 미딜레 데스 방장라지 샤네 소소디강레 팀도 많이 버치네 팀비 방장라지 샤네 에네 콜 카르도 고도 카르도 고금도스 딱지시 파지 딘데지 시기요서레스
누초베게 체네게 로라 탑신이 데 손주게 거니 냠술링게다 야나 야 제외게 도니 냠술랑야도 요리스 그 베카레라 샤나 디그로.
So I have a related caution. So in West, when you talk about wisdom and method, what kind of relations you see between wisdom and method, and how important it is to have wisdom and method go together?
I think it's of the utmost highest importance to have wisdom and methods go together. This we feel the same about. I think Robin later will talk a little bit about this today in her presentation, I believe. But I think we have a formal and complex system of diagnosis where we have to label different types of negative emotional states or types of mental illness. And in order to do that, or when we do that, we understand the causes better. And you have to understand the cause to understand the treatment in most cases. So I think, to that end, yes, we believe the same and we use the same insights.
The Nanzu Kingun Devimbina Nojola, and Tabda Sherab Nindi, Kadu Yimbinaya, and Yam to Droguiwadi, and Kechishu Zires, did Laduzambala, Naransula, and Naransu Kipala, Tazu Mantumba Dinde, Savani Mindus, Manzuki, and Nevajiki, and Nazadaki Bimbina, Tambungula, and Nazadi, and Karesha, Siaki, and Mercy, Katachi, Zina, and Pesha, same Nazaim, same Nazarik Mangushi, which you also Nazakora, more trade Chetula, and Laxi Manguchi, Yores. Nazadi, Moya, what you tell Yimbina, and dig Jumzen, Nazadik, and Jumu Simila, Pento Yungures. Guding way, I would sim in Bina, and Nazadilla, and Jotap Candice Chebu, and Ding washing Yores, Jazadilla to Sambala, Tapshi, Sungre, Chevik, Tony, and Jotap Chigritas, Kitchen Putingris, and Digol Tanda Gela Robins, Pajo, Tigdo, Gela Moranki, and Ningun Gablet Savik Chane, Digola, and Tamshi Hati Yores.
Also, different types of people, based on their personality and other factors, respond to different kinds of treatment. So I know one of the subtopics for today was what makes a personality or what makes a good personality. I think things like that also are factors in how we help other people. So, and sometimes we have to, if we see that one treatment is not working, we move on to the next. I had many questions yesterday after my presentation about, is dogs the only treatment? What other kinds of treatment? And there's many kinds of treatment, and sometimes we have to try one or two or three, and if they do not work, we move on to the next.
Rangshin Loga Yove Jumzen Tene, and Nazachik, the Jujenchik Imbinaya, and Kirki, and Jotab de Yalen Kandischi, Jotab de Kola Kasus Pento Yomesiadi, and Manda Yunguyores, Chanadilla to Sambala, Manzuki, Jotab, and Kari Pingidu, Kari Pingimidu, Tagi, Jotab Chik Peju Chevi Capsula, Ti Pingi Mevibina, and Jotab Shambachikana, and Andrea, the Nick, and Bezunchi Yores, Kazangi, Tamchi Chesavi, Jela, and Mimangunga, Tiwagu Duas. And Chijibu Pejuche, Jotab Dijibu Reves, Dimaim Pejutab Yoreves, Yona Karkari Yores, Yad in the Sidos, Jotab Rimambu Yores, Jotab Rimambu Yovek, Nalone, and Kansa Gersosola, and Penshu, the Renshu, Nipantu Cheshu, the Karidus, the Tagiche, and also do Yordas.
So I think it will be somewhat like repeating what Kishila just said. But simply put, I think wisdom and method, these are two technical terms, but in ordinary life we normally use them. But what I understood, if I put it simply, it's somewhat like wisdom is something that you are trying to know the reality of the phenomena. Once you know that, that's true wisdom. And once you start dealing with it, even in case of patient or anybody, so the way you deal with it through the wisdom is the combination of these two.
The Kazung Gelagi, Tamsis Nangsa, Ani Kila Dene, never disobeyed the Sengamlaya, Jewel Music Paintology Susan. The Indusambaya, the Tomara, Kansajigia, the Kidinyani, the Kidila Bemisigita, Zewachimbuchi Divera, the Chisolaya, Ani Kidi, the Dedrum Dobe Kosolaya, and Rangilaya, the Sumo to be Dumashli. The Dunga di any Mebasaki Jet of Yakshu Doji, Gelagi Candid to Jumusinginas.
So when you use this dog therapy, and when somebody is with the dogs or the pets, they develop attachment. And when you are separated from that attachment for whatever reason, the death of dog or whatever, then they are other kinds of problems, or to some extent mental problems that is related with that incident will come up in that patient. So do you have any instances where you have this kind of experiences? And if yes, then what kind of the treatments you use for treating those patients? Especially these kind of problems are related to more kind of attachment.
Is the question that if you provide the dog as a treatment, then it will further a sense of unhealthy attachment?
They will develop a bondage between the dog and the patient, right? And if there's a situation where the patient has separated from the dog for whatever reason, or the death of the dog or whatever, you know, and because since there's a lot of attachment involved already between these two, and the patient may have new symptoms that is related, or new problems, mental problems related with attachment. So what kind of problems you have noticed in your research, and to how you treat them, and what is the treatment you provide for these new problems come up?
We are ending the second year of our study, and so far we have not had these problems. That's the truth. But this is, I think, why. Before we, first, we let the person have a choice if they want a dog, and we counsel them through talk therapy if they are ready to feel a bond with the dog. So many times they say, no, I do not want the dog because I have already lost too many friends in the war, fellow soldiers that died, or maybe my wife died, or they are struggling with grief and loss, and we help them to understand if maybe they're not ready for a new attachment because they are only with the dogs a short time. And I'm surprised often that they have the wisdom to know what they are ready to handle, what they have the capacity to handle. So far with the, about 50 or more veterans we have studied, only 25 have said they want the dogs, and maybe 2 have said, I don't want to do this anymore, they give the dog back. But that is more because it is a lot of work to have the dog, not because of an attachment, so far.
제가 단다 받둘라 안간주기 레시디 아니 단다 로니와 두고요 was 제가 딘데게 강에 테모스 아니 네버술 테샤베 치디 시도야다 치디네 아니 자네 카테도야 딘데 강에 중마송스 제가 딜라도 잠발라 쮸탑디리세 아니 셰메스 아 자베찬 단다 받두 안주기 아니 망미술바 네버 아니 납줄 하스직 아니 안주기 레시디 나올라 영슈 제제 아니 안주 쮸탑게 페주치요레 리그 나올로네 아니 망미 니스트랭이 같이 요레슬라빈베나 아니 안주기 치든조 냐리요레스 당분간 콘솔라 아니 친야기 인다메 담가요레스 콘솔 카시기 nga chid nyab imbena chid nyamdo ane koyang gone ane thobo den chab imbena gyuma chid mewa cha du samba ngal ka nge dele cha yung sare nge thobo mangboji ma nang shisa su nge nang mi den shisa su tang gone ane ngaran da tanyo yo chikshina ane nge kita ngal yung sa mares le tangbo ne chi manya nye den yores 제가 다 단다 된소 아니 친 얘기 치 라니 장야 니스타가 중벌스 디나노 니기 아니 기마도라 치다 모스 냐야 갈레 시우스 내가 망고 시우스둘라지 야 로니 중요레스 아 이나야 얌세 휴직을 가리어스라비나 콘조 코란조 네바 이나야 단도 아니 치디 냐나 아니 펜도 마 용사레 마레 마오발라 아니 치디 냐베 겸진 때네 안가 강에 요나 강 카르카테 시그레스 야 된소 망치 당봉원에 코라 얘기 다 셰도 차디 아니 요디요 레스터션
And just one quick thing. Also, much like you discussed the impermanence of all things, we also have this very direct discussion that you cannot become attached to the dog. This is a momentary bond, and you can still have an open heart, but it is momentary. And so I think in this counseling and in this philosophical discussion they are able to trust their own wisdom and to know that this bond is impermanent while they are in our program. And I think it also helps them to understand their previous losses and losses that they will also have in the future. So it's a somewhat similar discussion.
ni kiranzu ki namgu ani medaba de kechim bushi uchi chigi yorwas medabe kola ani dus che ani thudur chigi yorwas tiga nashi nganzu ki ani mangmin surba denzo da nyam keje shi kapsula khadu imbina ya ani medabe kol keje shi res kiranzu standa chinye di ani bed thuden du kiranzu nyam de di mardas and dil de sambala thuden du ne de dewaji yong tu yo mardas ani khadu imbina ani gurdu res khadu imbina ya mewa chasi yores ya tendeki ani lopso ti yores tendeki lopso te imbina ani negam ki ani ko pendo yo wa denzo len thobya da shiwujigla ani chidinzo la chaje bed mena rido dende ani moyo ki ani ne da yung yores.
Method and wisdom in Buddhism are practiced both during the meditative session and also during the post-meditative session. And in fact, practice during the post-meditative session is even more important, because when you are meditating, everything looks good. But when you mix the crowd during the post-meditative session, then you might forget all your practices. So here we are having tea break, post-meditative session. But you can still practice talking about the same topic, which will be actually more enriching and interactive. Ngazu nangchu na thab de khirab nyamlen sheye di gom gi negab le nyamlen sheye chik da ta karzore jetop gi negab le nyamlen sheye ni yorwa tinni nanglo ne nyamlen ngone de jetop le nyamlen sheye de kesha sig yorwa gom jawe kala sokzo che de su ganda ba chege me den ra chak do khawo chig yungu yeb sor ba yor ta gom de ma thene ne cholam da mangbol cheng de tene khungdo langge yungu re nyokdo langge yungu di kabal khakbu do wa chidi ta thanda ngazu di parsing soje che kap di jetop gi negab de re di kabla chano se mitu ne nyamlen che shore karsor penji kodur che nyamlen che shore